Good afternoon, students. Today we'll be continuing to look at Arthur Miller's play Death of a Salesman, but we will be focusing on a specific element, and that is soliloquy. Today we'll explore what a soliloquy is, how Arthur Miller uses this technique in his play, and why this helps us connect with the main character, Willie. We'll also watch a short movie clip, do an activity together, and finish with a fun Kahoot quiz. Let's begin. What is a soliloquy? Does anybody know what a soliloquy is? So what I have here is that a soliloquy is a speech delivered by a character alone on stage. It reveals the character's inner thoughts, feelings, and motivations. The audience gains insight into the character's mind. So what that means is that it's a tool used in drama, and that's where the character speaks their private thoughts when they're alone or when they believe that they're alone. The audience is allowed to hear exactly what is in the character's mind. Their deepest emotions, struggles, and their thoughts would be revealed. Not through action, but through words. One very famous example is from Hamlet, where the prince says, "To be or not to be, that is the question." He is speaking to himself here and no one else. But the audience, they hear it and understands the character's inner conflict. Now, let's think for a moment. Why do you think a playwright would choose to use soliloquy instead of dialogue? Or even action. Why do you think a playwright would choose to use soliloquy instead of dialogue or action? So you are correct. Sometimes emotions and thoughts are too complex to be shown through actions alone. Soliloquy helps reveal the truth about a character's inner world. It basically reveals what's going on inside of their mind or their deepest thoughts. Let me move on to the next slide here. Purpose of a soliloquy. So, what we have here is that it reveals inner conflicts, emotions, and motivations that are not obvious through action or dialogue. To develop character depth and allow the audience to empathize with the character. To advance the plot by revealing intentions or decisions. To build dramatic tension and mood. To strengthen the connection between the character and the audience. So, so what that basically means, or what it's saying, is that soliloquy allows us to understand what the character really feels, what they might hide from others. It builds tension, creates empathy, and drives the story forward. For example, in Death of a Salesman, when Willie Loman speaks to himself late at night, we discover things that he never shared with Linda, his wife, or his sons. Why do you think it's important for us? We are the audience. Why do you think it's important for the audience to know Willie's private thoughts? Sorry. Why is it important for us to know Willie's private thoughts? Okay. So that's correct. It basically helps us to understand his fears, his regrets, his emotions, and we feel closer to him as a character. Let's see what we have next here. Soliloquy versus monologue. So let's be clear, soliloquy and monologue are not the same. Do you or do any of you know the difference between a soliloquy and a monologue? Mhm. Okay, so soliloquy, that's a speech where a character speaks their private thoughts aloud, alone on stage. A monologue is a long speech addressed to other characters or the audience. The key difference here is that soliloquy are our inner thoughts, and monologue are us communicating with others. Um, the example we have is Willie's soliloquy in Death of a Salesman versus Biff's monologue to Willie. So, what all of this basically means is a monologue that's basically the character, um, he gives a speech to other characters or to the audience directly. While a soliloquy is different because this is a private speech spoken aloud but only for the character, not for others, not for other persons to hear. And the example again would be Biff speaking to his dad, Willie, and trying to explain his feelings. That's a monologue. But when Willie's alone, planting seeds at night, that's soliloquy. He is basically speaking his private thoughts. That's what makes it a soliloquy. Can anyone think of any examples from maybe a movie that they might have watched that you can share with us? Hmm. Good. So that shows that you understand the difference. Now let's take a deeper look at soliloquy in Death of a Salesman. In Death of a Salesman, Arthur Miller uses soliloquy to help us to understand Willie Loman's inner struggles. The themes explored were disillusionment with the American dream, regret, fear of failure, and loss of identity. Now, Willie speaks to himself in moments of confusion and despair, offering insight into his own mental state. So Arthur Miller's character Willie, he basically believed in the American dream, the idea that hard work brings success. But as you saw in the play, that dream has failed him. Through soliloquy, we hear his fears, his sadness at what he has not yet achieved, his regrets about life. When Willie speaks alone, we discover truths that he can't share with his family. It's through soliloquy that we actually get to understand him. Now, take a few seconds and think about this here for me. Why is it important for us to hear this side of Willie? Why is it important that we know or hear Willie's thoughts? Does it have anything to do with how we look at him or how we view him as a character? Exactly. So that makes him a more human, a more tragic character. Let's move on here. Examples of soliloquy. Hmm. One of the most powerful soliloquy in the play, I would say, is probably when Willie says, "Nothing's planted, I don't have a thing in the ground." So he says this while planting seeds at night alone. Now think about this. What is Willie really trying to say? He basically feels that his life has produced nothing lasting. He has failed to create a secure future for his family. Now, when I read this line, I feel great sadness for Willie. Despite his mistakes, he tried really hard. And now in the play, he's alone, he's in the dark, and realizes that he has failed. Let's take a look at the impact of Willie's soliloquies here. These soliloquies basically help us understand Willie's mind again. So we might judge him only by his actions, like getting angry at his sons or arguing with Linda, but through the soliloquies, we're able to see his desperation, his fears, his hope, and his regrets. We begin to feel sympathy for him, even though he is flawed. That is why soliloquy is so important. So, what we have here is audience understands Willie's increasing desperation and mental decline. We're able to understand that and see that now. It helps the audience feel empathy for Willie despite his flaws. It shows how Willie cannot cope with failure and how his hopes conflict with reality. It strengthens the tragic mood of the play. So, soliloquy basically makes characters more real. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this clip here. I actually already have it open. It's a short clip from the 1985 HBO movie with Dustin Hoffman. Here we go. As you look at it, I want you to pay attention to his tone, his body language, his words, and think about what he's feeling. Think about his state of mind in this moment. Mhm. Good. Now, what emotions did you hear from that clip that we just looked at? What emotions did you hear from Willie? Why do you think planting seeds is so symbolic here? Okay, that's correct. Willie is trying to leave something behind, but he knows that it's too late. Now let's do a quick written activity here. Please take a few minutes and write the answer to these two questions. What does the soliloquy reveal about the character, Willie? And what or how does it make you feel about him? What does the soliloquy reveal about Willie and how does it make you feel about the character? Take a few seconds and answer that for me. And the floor is open to anyone who wants to share, okay? Okay. Okay, I'm listening. Thank you. So this shows how soliloquy connects us to the character. Um, Now it's time for our Kahoot quiz. Let's test what you have learned today. Just give me a few seconds. Let me open up the quiz. So for the first question, let's see what it is. What is a soliloquy? The options are private thoughts spoken aloud, a conversation with others, a silent gesture, or a song in a musical plea. Which one do you think the correct answer is? Let's see. Private thoughts spoken aloud. That is correct. Let's move on to the next one here. Who uses soliloquy in Death of a Salesman? Who do you remember using soliloquy in Death of a Salesman? Was it Biff? Was it Linda? Was it Willie? And the fourth option here is Willie's sons. Let's see. Willie. That is correct. Willie was the person using soliloquy in the play. Next question. What does Willie plant late at night? Does Willie plant tomatoes, seeds, flowers, or onions late at night? What do you remember Willie planting late at night? Let's see what the answer is here. Seeds. That is correct. Willie was planting seeds late at night. Let's move on to the fourth question now. Soliloquy helps the audience A. Understand the plot only, B. Know what other characters think, C. See into the character's mind, or D. Predict the ending. Soliloquy helps the audience what? Let's see what we have. See into the character's mind. You are correct. And the final question, Willie's soliloquy shows. What does Willie's soliloquy show? Is it happiness, Is it victory? Is it indifference? Is it desperation? Okay, desperation. Okay, thank you for that. We close that out so it doesn't disturb us and go back to the PowerPoint. Now we'll be looking at some simple review questions. And the first one is, what is a soliloquy? We just did that, but I want you to use your own words. What is a soliloquy? Okay. Private thoughts spoken aloud by the character. That is correct. Next question. How does Arthur Miller use soliloquy in the play? What does he use it for? What does he display? What are you getting from the soliloquy in Death of a Salesman? That is correct. He used it to reveal Willie's fears, his regrets, and lost hopes. The third question is, what emotions do Willie's soliloquies show? What emotions are revealed in Willie's soliloquies? So we have desperation, thank you. Sadness, yes. Can anybody think of anything else? We already have sadness and desperation. Anything else? Hopelessness, thank you for that. So we have desperation, sadness, and hopelessness are being revealed in Willie's soliloquies. And the last question, how does soliloquies help us, the audience, to understand the themes of the play? How do soliloquies help the audience understand the themes of the play? Okay, helps us to understand, we know that. But how does it do that? It gives us insight into the character's mind. It deepens our understanding of failure. The American dream, um, that's the tragedy basically that's being displayed there. He believed in the American dream and now he believes he has failed. So, to conclude, in Death of a Salesman, Willie's soliloquy helps us to feel compassion for him and helps us to understand the full tragedy of his life. Before we go, does anyone have any questions? No? Then that's a wrap for today.